So, hi, welcome. We're going to get started. My name is Shayna Thomas, and I am an admissions counselor here at Trinity and a member of the class of 21.
And hi, everyone. My name is Dayla Whaley. I am an admissions counselor, and I am also an alumna of Trinity. I graduated the class of 2020. So we're really excited to be able to have you all here today. I know that people are going to continue to roll on in throughout the rest of the session, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. I hope everybody can see that. But essentially today we're going to be sharing with you all what the big deal about small liberal arts and sciences colleges is. And so Shane and I both have the awesome experience of having attended school at a small liberal arts school. And of course, being a Trinity alum, we can speak very personally about the Trinity experience. But this is not necessarily a presentation that is just about Trinity. We do want to try our best to provide a very comprehensive tidbit about what a small liberal arts college is and if it really is genuinely a good fit for you. But to give you an agenda of what we're going to be talking about, we'll talk about what a liberal arts education is. Is it a good fit for you? How do small liberal arts colleges evaluate your application? What a pragmatic value of a liberal arts education is, and then what makes Trinity unique amongst other small liberal arts colleges. And then after that, if you have any questions, feel free to answer or feel free to ask them throughout the session, but we'll specifically save some time after to make sure that we have time to go over them. All right. So what is a liberal arts education? So we do want to make this as interactive as possible. So before even us diving into, what a liberal arts education is, we wanted to kind of propose the question to you all. What do you know about liberal arts? And what do you know about a liberal arts education? Feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to, comment in the chat, however you feel comfortable. But if you feel confident and comfortable to unmute yourself, we'd love to hear from you all. What do you know about the liberal arts?
Hi, my name is Alimo Gonzano. And I think liberal arts school is kind of like a balanced education of not just your major, but also, it's kind of what they just said, but just a mix of also like English or literature, mathematics, whatever.
I love that. Yes. Anyone else? What is a liberal arts education? Or what do you think of when you hear that?
You don't have to have the right answer. We are going to tell you what it is afterwards, so you guys can, you can be a little risky.
This is more like, I already said something in the chat, but, like I said, a comprehensive education that allows for expansion in multiple fields, but also like, more of a community, like tight-knit vibe, I guess. That's what I think of, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these, again, there's no real wrong answer here, especially with getting an understanding. That is why we're all here today. So we can go ahead and jump right on into it. What is a liberal arts education? So a liberal arts education offers an expansive intellectual grounding in all kinds of humanistic inquiry. And I know that sounds very academic, and so I'm going to do my best to try to break that down for you all. So expansive, right? So expansive, not limited to a single discipline or method. So like one of you had just mentioned, you have the opportunity to explore different realms of academia. And so if you are interested in the sciences, you have the opportunity to explore not just in a linear way, biology, but you can explore psychology. You can also explore chemistry. And this is all possible under a liberal arts education. And then on top of that, if you wanted to go into music and study music theory, you have the ability to do that. So it offers an expansive, not limited to a single discipline or method. And then humanistic. So rooted in the study of human values, nature, and welfare. So studying the different types of sciences, the social sciences, global sciences, all of these, you have natural sciences, right? You have all of the opportunity to study these based on human values, nature, welfare, etc. And then humanistic inquiry. So inquiry, the pursuit of truth and knowledge. So understanding that there's many different routes that you can get to truth and knowledge. And I think that that's a great part of the liberal arts education, is that you have the ability to explore and unpack that. So that is what a liberal arts education is in a nutshell. Goals of liberal arts education. So the goals of a liberal arts education is to get an interdisciplinary, well-rounded education. And so using myself as an example, whenever I was in the process of looking at liberal arts schools, that was something that I genuinely was excited about, was I had the opportunity to not just focus on one lens, but if I wanted to unpack American history, I can look at it from a political standpoint. I can look at it from a historical standpoint, a liturgical standpoint. So looking at literature, you can get an interdisciplinary, well-rounded education. Secondarily, you develop skills and competencies for success in any field. So I was an American Studies major here at Trinity, and we, like I'd mentioned, we were able to unpack American history in various different ways. So communication, writing and speaking, right? Critical thinking, problem solving, research and analysis, empathy, right? Focusing on that humanistic component, intercultural competencies, collaboration, flexibility, adaptability, leadership. These are all things that you are able to achieve and obtain because it's a part of the goal of a liberal arts education. And then sidebar, there's a beautiful picture of our campus right there. What does a liberal arts education look like? So liberal arts educations, it's not monolithic. It's not something that every single college will have the exact same way. There's different types of liberal arts. And so here are a few different examples of different curriculum types. So with this curriculum type, you can see very first example is St. John's. And at the heart of St. John's College, their undergraduate program is a liberal arts curriculum, and it's focused on the most important books and ideas of Western civilization. So you'll see students that study the same types of texts there, and that's a part of their curriculum. Now, on the other hand, a school like Columbia, their core curriculum, they have a core curriculum. And so their idea is set on a common set of courses that are required for all students, all undergraduates. And these are the core courses that are necessary for a general education. Some of you may have heard of the term gen eds, fulfilling gen ed requirements. So that's the type of curriculum that Columbia has. And so that's irrespective of your choice in major, you have to have these general common courses that are part of this core curriculum. So the communal learning with all students encountering the same texts and issues at the same time. So traditionally you see students completing gen eds during their first 2 years, trying to fulfill all of those requirements. And so the critical dialogue is experienced in smaller seminars, and these are distinctive, but they're all features of that core curriculum, that core education. Then you have schools like Trinity. So the Trinity curriculum sets some basic directions for students through their general education requirements, but you also see at Trinity students having the opportunity to have an individualized process. So Trinity offers each individual the flexibility to go out and experiment, to deepen old interests and develop new ones, and to acquire specialized training in a major field. So a student like myself, I was able to have the flexibility with Trinity's curriculum to go through and pick out some classes that were part of distribution requirements or common requirements. And the example that I love to use is a class that I took while I was a junior called Math and Politics. I was really anxious about taking a math class as someone who was majoring in American Studies and was very humanities minded. But a distribution requirement that we all had was to take a numeric and symbolic reasoning requirement, AKA math. And so I had the flexibility to take a class about math and politics that kind of focused more on my interest in my degree. And then you see things like Smith College with an open curriculum. So it's the student's responsibility at Smith, in close collaboration, of course, with faculty and staff, to develop essential capacities over the course of an academic career. So there's a number of different pathways that a student can take. They might travel to attain, those capacities of the major that they decide. So you as a student should reflect on your individual progress, and you choose your own courses and co-curricular programs. So that's what's called an open curriculum. Next slide, I'll let Shayna take it from here.
Okay, so we just told you guys what a liberal arts education might look like, and now you might be wondering if it's a good fit for you. So we're gonna kind of dive a little bit more into like what the liberal arts education experience can be like. Slide, please. Thank you. So first off, we're going to talk about the academic, personal, and social. And there is an academic misconception about liberal arts schools that because they have such a wide variety of education that maybe like the degrees aren't as valuable as schools that don't offer liberal arts education. But in reality, liberal arts educations are meant for students who want to study a lot of things or maybe don't know what they want to study. Personally, I did not know what I wanted to major in when I was applying for colleges in the slightest. And I applied to a lot of liberal arts colleges because I really valued the idea that like not only are you expected to kind of experience a variety of different courses, but it's also like really encouraged to do so. And I thought that was something that was just really valuable in general, but especially since I was looking for inspiration in my academic trajectory. So getting to kind of like put my hand in a lot of different pots was really helpful for me. And even though, as Day mentioned, there are different characteristics of what a liberal arts education might consist of, there are some shared characteristics across the board, such as intimacy, students at the center, and customization. So intimacy, Amber mentioned when talking earlier about like what a liberal arts education is, the intimate vibes that liberal arts schools tend to have, and it's really true. They are usually smaller, so you get to know everybody in your community across all levels, like not only your peers, but also the staff, the faculty, like the maintenance workers, the dining hall workers. Everybody is part of like a very nice community, and it kind of shows across all layers of campus. So students at the center. In some like larger research institutions, you might find that professors have conflicting priorities between the research that they need to produce and also educating students. So sometimes you might find classes that are more run by graduate students or teachers assistants, but liberal arts institutions, while research is still a very like relevant, valuable part of what happens there, students have more of an ability to focus like the majority of their resources on educating their students. And then customization, you get to choose like what your education consists of. And that is so valuable, is like each person is different and has their different interests. So with the liberal arts, you get to kind of, mix and match like what you want your college career to be and like what you want it to center around. Slide, please. Yeah, so just to deep dive a little bit more into the things that I just talked about. So like that tight-knit community and strong relationships. Something that I really valued about like my liberal arts education is that I found that it was both easy to kind of like develop a social circle and like meet people, but it was also like very, very feasible and also like built into the experience to continually expand your network throughout your 4 years there. So you have like your small seminar style classes, and something that is, well, I've only gone to Trinity, so it's a little too specific, but even classes that will be like branded as lectures, you'll find that you still end up having those discussions because like your classes are small. Even your largest classes at liberal arts schools will tend to be on the smaller side in the grand scheme of like college class sizes. So even in like lecture style classes, you might find like those group discussions where as much as like you're being educated by your professor, like you have that chance to share your opinion and hear the opinions of your peers. but you are getting taught by your professor all the time because they have the ability to do so and like focus their resources in that way. And there's the focus on developing like students as holistic people and not just academics. So we have interdisciplinary programming like Study Away, which is like a great opportunity that Day and I both experienced when we were in college, and that we honestly both cannot recommend enough. And just like other type of experiential experiences that allow you to develop not only as like an academic, but also like as a whole being, because they kind of affect you on all types of like layers of your personality. But yes, and then academic flexibility, customization, support to explore and study across multiple disciplines. Like as I mentioned earlier, you're not just expected to do several different things, but you're encouraged to do it. And you get to choose, like if something sticks with you, which I think is something that's really valuable about the liberal arts, like you try so many things by design, and then the things that stick with you and that have like an impact on you, you're very encouraged to like pursue them and like dive deeper into those things. And you have this ability to like find something that maybe you wouldn't have been aware about before, and then really like get involved with it, which I think is really amazing and unique. Yeah. Next slide, please.
All right. So thank you, Shayna. So the next thing we'll touch on is how do small liberal arts colleges evaluate your application? So just to get a show of hands, and feel free to raise your virtual hand, but how many of you are rising seniors? Okay, quite a few. How many of you are rising juniors? Okay. And rising sophomores and first-year students, those ambitious underclassmen. Awesome. And I'm sure we have a few college counselors joining us as well. So welcome. But I feel like as you're going through the application process, this is a question that you may have in the back of your head. How is this school going to actually look at me as a person? And so we'll dive a bit into it. So traditionally, right, especially with small liberal arts colleges, generally you'll see a holistic process, a holistic application review process. And this really kind of touches on what Shayna was mentioning in one of her previous slides, how we truly do know that we are talking about building a community. So we understand that there is an importance in looking at a student's whole picture. So we understand that you're not just an academic, you are more than that. You have your co-curricular activities, you have your personal life. And so with a liberal arts college, we actually do take all of that into consideration as you're going through your application. And you have different ways that you can highlight that. So with your academic components, right, you have your high school transcript. So we look at your performance, we look at the rigor, the classes that you've taken and how well you've done in them. Standardized test scores. Now, Trinity is test optional. We've been test optional since 2015, but some other liberal arts colleges will look at those test scores. They'll look at, where you fit in with that. And then with your co-curricular component, they'll look at your activities list. So you are involved in maybe sports or athletics. Maybe you are in theater. Maybe you're a musician and you play an instrument. Or maybe you have a part-time job, right? This is all things that are part of that activities list that we'll be looking at with the holistic application review process. If you have a resume that you've worked for the past 4 years or however long, you can send that in as well. And then your personal component, your character, right? So looking at that interview, if you decide to do one, an optional essay, if you take advantage of that, demonstrated interest or engagement. So how you have connected with us as an institution, being here tonight, that is an example of demonstrated interest or engagement. And then predictors of success. So this is something that Trinity does, and we have our predictors of success. They, just to name a few of them, we have overcoming adversity. We have comfort in a minority of one. So just to give you an example, these are types of predictors of success that we found in students who are part of our community or environment. So if you resonate with one of those, that is looked at as a part of your personal component in your application. And then you can kind of see in the middle there is some overlap where we get a bit of all of these in a specific part of the application. And those can be your letters of recommendation and then your personal essay. So again, we understand that with your personal essay, even though it says personal essay, you may talk about your co-curricular activities. You may talk about your academic experience and maybe overcoming a challenge in a tough class. Like your letters of recommendation, if you have a letter of recommendation from a coach, and then you also have a letter of recommendation from your school counselor, we understand that they are going to speak to different parts of who you are. But that's really what you have within your control, right? So your academic, your personal, your co-curricular, these are all things that you have within your control. Not within your control is going to be institutional priorities. So our mission and our vision. Trinity, our mission statement is engage, connect, and transform. So we are engaging students in various different ways. We are connecting them into the community, and we're encouraging them to leave transforming lives. Another piece that is a part of institutional priorities that's not within your control is going to be access and inclusion. So different initiatives that may have started. And then finances. So this is another piece of the application process that is not necessarily within your control. And so just to keep in mind that this is not going to define who you are throughout the process, but these are all things that matter with the application. All right.
So now we have, what is the pragmatic value of a liberal arts education? So we've told you what it is, why it might be a good fit for you, how you might get one, and now, like, what do you do with it, or what does it do for you? So next slide, please. So develop the skills to pursue any career. I am not going to make you guys listen to me read through all of these all the way through, but I'm going to read most of them. So law, students are admitted to law school from almost every academic discipline. Whatever major you select, you're encouraged to pursue an area of study that interests and challenges you, while taking advantage of opportunities to develop your research and writing skills. Okay, so for example, at Trinity, you can be on the pre-law track while having any major. I can be a studio arts major on the pre-law track. I can be a biology major on the pre-law track, because in law school, you are going to learn all of the skills you need to be a lawyer. Surprise, like that's a plot twist. You learn everything about being a lawyer in law school. So for undergrad, like they encourage you to pursue other things, because ultimately one of the most valuable skills that you can get out of your college education is learning how to think and how to think in different capacities. And liberal arts encourages you to do that, while also giving you the foundational skills to be successful in like a more like a trick. Law school is not a trade school, but I'm losing the word to actually like describe what it is. Law school, a professional school afterwards. So medicine, a study conducted across 5 medical schools in the United States found that trainee doctors who were exposed to the humanities had higher levels of positive personal qualities such as empathy, tolerance for ambiguity, wisdom, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy and visual spatial skills. Again, in medical school, you will learn all of the nitty-gritty about being a doctor and the body and medicine, but the kind of skills that end up being really valuable in doctors are something that kind of develop before they get that like more traditional practical medical experience, and they really can foster those at liberal arts institutions in a way that may not be available at all schools across the board. Next slide, please. So yes, okay, another example. We chose some really good, interesting quotes for you guys. You're welcome. So Uber was picking up psychology majors to deal with unhappy riders and drivers. OpenTable was hiring English majors to bring data to restaurateurs to get them excited about what data could do for their restaurants. Don't go to school for finance. Liberal arts is the future and the present. With the continued automation of so many jobs, billionaire investor Mark Cuban predicts that those with soft skills, such as adaptability and communication, will have an advantage in an automated workforce. And for those of you who don't know who Mark Cuban is, but have heard of the show Shark Tank, Mark Cuban is on Shark Tank, so that kind of tells you about his credentials. And I'm not even going to read the last one for you guys because I think I've driven the point home. But basically, like the theme between all of these is that you don't necessarily think that the skills and the background that these people have will get them in the jobs they have. You don't think that psychology majors are going to be like Uber's, desired population of employees. You don't think that like OpenTable is going to look for English majors, but skills are very translatable, and liberal arts is very big on translatable skills. Something that someone told me at some point in my undergraduate career was that one of like the really valuable things like Trinity tried to prioritize as a liberal arts institution was not preparing students for any particular trade or job, but giving students the kind of skills that would be adaptable for jobs that didn't even exist yet. Because who knows if we're going to have people, engineers in the future. I mean, we probably will. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an expert in this, but who knows if we'll need people for engineering in like 20 years. But we'll still need people for something, and having those skills that you can take with you from, English major to open table employee to the Uber job that English will give you in the future, let's just be creative. That's what the liberal arts can do for you, like giving you the skills to kind of create a future for you, because you don't know what life is going to have in store, but you can be prepared for it as possible with a versatile skill set from the liberal arts. Slide, please. And yes, okay, so this is another essay. This is an article from the Association of American Colleges and Universities, and I am going to read barely any of it, you guys, so don't worry. Okay, nearly all employers, 91%, agree that for career success, the candidate's demonstrated capacity to think critically, communicate clearly, and solve complex problems is more important than his or her undergraduate degree. And the part I'm reading it as at the bottom. When hiring recent graduates, employers place the greatest priority on a demonstrated proficiency in skills and knowledge that cut across majors. Of 17 outcome areas tested, written and oral communication, teamwork skills, ethical decision-making, critical thinking, and the ability to apply knowledge in real-world settings are most highly valued by employers. And I will tell you right now that those are also the things most highly valued by liberal arts colleges and the things that we endeavor to teach all of our students. And you find a really valuable real world application for like the life skills that the liberal arts gives you, because as we mentioned earlier, the goal is to develop a person holistically, and holistic personal development is really good for your career in the long run. Slide, please. But yeah, so this one is about the ROI. So ROI stands for return on investment. Basically, say college costs $10, and if in the end going to college gives me $100, then my return on investment is $90. I did do my math requirement, but I'm not very good at math, so forgive me if that did not sound right, but I think it was. And I'm just going to read a paragraph towards the bottom. More selective liberal arts institutions typically have even higher median return on investments. The 47 most selective liberal arts colleges, which include insert colleges here, have a 40-year ROI of 1.13 million. Those returns are nearly as high as the ROI from doctoral institutions with the highest research activity. One at 1.14 million. Students from low-income families. I messed up the reading completely. I have terrible vision and the text is small, but the point is the liberal arts gives you a really good return on investment. And that is something that we are very open and honest about. College is an investment, but you want to get the best bang for your buck. And the liberal arts is something that gives you adaptable skills that you can use in a multitude of different settings, like personally and professionally throughout your life. Slide, please.
All right. So what makes Trinity unique among small liberal arts colleges? Just going to take a minute to dive into that, and then we'll take questions. So one thing that's really unique about Trinity is that we're a small liberal arts college in a city. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, small town, West Texas. I actually graduated high school with 8 students. So in the midst of my time searching for the perfect college for me, I knew that I wanted to be out of the middle of nowhere. I wanted to go to a liberal arts school, but I didn't want to go to a liberal arts school that was, on its own, again, in the middle of nowhere again. And so the fact that Trinity has the opportunity, the access to a city, I think is really important and is truly what sets us apart as an institution. So our location, being in Hartford. Hartford is the capital of Connecticut. So not only do you just have access to any city, you have access to a capital city. So for students who are interested in going into politics, studying political science, want to get involved in public policy and law, these are type of opportunities that you'll see within a capital city. And because Hartford is not as large as New York or Boston, you really do have the opportunity to make an impact on the community that you're getting yourself involved with. A great part of that is also internships. So students can have part-time or full-time internships for academic credit. And this can happen during the school year between the fall or spring semester. It can happen as well as in the summer. So long as you're living on campus, living in the city of Hartford, attending school here, you really do have the access, the opportunity to have an internship. And I'll highlight one of our programs. We have a Health Fellows program. And this is an internship opportunity for students who may be interested in STEM. So maybe interested in going into the medical field, doing pre-med, etc. You as a student who is a part of this program have the opportunity to intern at one of 3 different hospitals in Hartford or in the area. We have the Connecticut Children's Hospital that's right up the street. We also have the Hartford Hospital, which is literally a 7-minute walk off of campus. And so you're able to shadow doctors and rounds and research and surgery and really get to see what the day-to-day life is like as a doctor. And then for students who are really interested in research, you also have the opportunity to engage in that research very heavily during that semester or that time that you're doing the internship. Another internship I will highlight is the legislative internship. So I had just mentioned that students who are interested in going into pre-law or would like to do any sort of work in politics, the legislative internship, again, is a really great opportunity for students. You're able to intern downtown at the Capitol building. Senator Blumenthal has actually had Trinity students shadow him during his time serving. So again, you have that access right here, right at the access of your fingertips. We have so many opportunities in different industries. And I will say at Trinity, we have done our part in establishing those relationships with different businesses or companies in the area. So we actually do have 200 pre-established internships that are in the greater Hartford area. And so these internships are actually reserved for Trinity students. So they're in the field of advertising, public service, finance, marketing, communications, politics, as I had already mentioned, the nonprofit sector. So really anything that you're interested in doing, we have an opportunity for you. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, not only do you have access to internship opportunities, you have access to different programming. So we have our Liberal Arts Action Lab, which is downtown. It's our satellite space there. It's an educational partnership that we have. So Capital Community College will have some students that will, a few students in a different class or a different cohort every semester. They have injunction with some Trinity students, but essentially students who take classes here, they take on an entirely project-based course. And so this is the type of research that you're doing that really, as you're doing it, you can see that practical application happening right then and there. So you're able to develop solutions to problems. And these are challenges or issues that are brought to us by Trinity and community partners. So people within the city of Hartford, things that you want to solve. A project that was undertaken a little while ago was a collaborative effort with the Hartford and the Trinity Homelessness Project. And so students were able to work on a project to help solve homelessness or to help with homelessness in the city of Hartford. We also have our Center for Student Success and Career Development. They actually just got renamed to our Life Design Center. And essentially, they have 2 different philosophies. One philosophy is focusing on social and emotional intelligence of students, and the other one is to allow students to really personalize their Trinity experience. So as you're going through the application process, as a liberal arts student, I had mentioned, you have a holistic application review. We understand that when you get here, you want to maintain that as well. And so when it comes to thinking about career and your life after college, this is a really great opportunity for you to continue to explore. So again, this Student Success and Life Design Center, it's focused on developing unique support systems for all sorts of students. Recently, they've really honed in on 2 different populations of students, and that's going to be our first generation to college students and our international students. So we have built a lot of support networks to make sure that those students transition into college seamlessly, but also as they're going through and deciding what they want to do after college, and in the midst of college, they have resources and pillars to lean on throughout it. The Career Development Center, also, I'd mentioned those internships. This is the resource that you use to really help in obtaining those. That is what I did whenever I was an undergraduate student at Trinity. I tried to make sure that anytime I saw an internship opportunity that really piqued my interest, I would sit down and have them work with me through my resume, work with me through a cover letter, sit down and do a mock interview. You have that support system right there on Trinity's campus. And these are ways to, again, go out and involve yourself in the city. And you have help and support network right here on campus for that. We also have our Fiercely Loyal Alumni Network. So being a really small liberal arts school, again, you have the ability to connect with students that are here on campus, desiring that community atmosphere. And when they graduate, it doesn't end there, right? We always say once a Bantam, always a Bantam. So students who have graduated, alumni, they want to give back, they want to make those connections. And so as a current student who's going through the process, you're able to sit down and chat with people who were once in your shoes. And I think that's something that's just, it's invaluable, really, it's truly invaluable. But that, I believe, is it for our presentation part. I'm gonna go ahead and stop screen share really quickly. But if there are any questions, we'll go ahead and take those now. And I'll go ahead and let me make sure I get this slide up. If you would like to have our emails, Shayna and myself, we put our emails there. Feel free to email us anytime after this. If you have any specific questions, would like to chat one-on-one, we'd be more than happy to help you through the process. But any questions concerning liberal arts colleges, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself, message in the chat, and let us know how we can help.
Well, before you guys give us any questions, Day and I are going to tell you 2 things about ourselves we forgot to tell you when we started: our pronouns and our territories. So mine are she, her, hers, and my territories are Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island in New York, and the entire great state of Colorado.
Awesome. Thanks for that reminder, Shayna. So my pronouns are also she, her, hers, and my territories are Texas. So Greater Texas, I have Greater Dallas area, Greater Houston, and West Texas. I also have Arkansas, Kansas, and Oklahoma, so a bit of the South. I have Northern and Central New Jersey. So if you're from the Newark area, Montclair, I have that type of region in New Jersey. And then I also cover New York City, well, other parts of New York City. I cover the Bronx, Long Island, and Queens. So anywhere there, those are, feel free to reach out to us as we are your respective territory managers.
Yeah, we have a question. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know if you can answer this, but it's nowhere in the page or something. But you said that it's like a small liberal arts college, and I wanted to ask, how accessible are the professors when you want to like ask for research or something like that? Because I heard from other universities that some professors like want you to schedule a meeting like a month before and stuff. So how accessible are professors in Trinity College? If you can answer that.
Yeah, we can answer that. So we talked a little bit earlier about how like one of the benefits of liberal arts education is the intimacy. And at Trinity particularly, like professors are extremely accessible. Like every professor that you have class with is going to hold office hours for the class. And even beyond that, like most of them are just like they're in their offices or they like spend time on campus and you can just walk up to them at any given time. I was a little shocked by the idea of like waiting a month to talk to one of my professors, because like I see them all the time and I talk to them all the time, and it's really nice. Like you get to form relationships with the professors really easily because like your classes are small enough that like they get to know every individual student, and like you tend to take classes like with the same professors throughout the years, and like you end up having like relationships with them by the time that you're a senior. And you mentioned like research briefly. So I know we talked about how sometimes the larger institutions research takes a lot of professors' attention away, but what's really great about Trinity is that even though we are a small liberal arts college, many of our professors, if not most of them, do research. And one of the like upsides to them being so accessible is like it's really feasible and like pretty easy, I think, to like do research with a professor at Trinity. I did research as an undergrad, and most of the people that I know have done research as undergrads. So like you have really accessible professors, and their research opportunities are equally accessible, which is really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I see another question. Or hand raised, I should say.
Okay. I was wondering first off, what fields or major you guys were in, as well as what was your biggest takeaway or something that you really like loved about Trinity, that made you even like stay, still like be a part of the community.
Yeah. Okay. So I was an American Studies and Anthropology double major. And what I loved about Trinity, I loved the community. That was like I really loved about it. I went to a smaller high school, and I like came from a really like great sense of community. I was really like tapped into that space. And since I didn't know what I wanted to study, what I wanted to do in the future, where I wanted to be geographically, that was like the one thing I knew I wanted in college. And it was something that I really found in Trinity, and like that was really reinforced like throughout my 4 years of undergrad. And I just loved like the school so much, just like the things I was like the interest I was able to find, or like the community that I was able to build. And it was something that I really wanted to continue to be a part of, and like help other people also like find that space for them, and like find those opportunities. And the value of like the liberal arts experience, and like a Trinity experience especially. I never left. I tell people this like every day now at work, like I graduated and my parents left me here. I just stayed here the whole time. And I think like it's really nice to like be a part of that. And also just like it's really great to be a part of an institution that like is always like endeavoring to be better, and like try new things, and like break new bounds. I think that's like a really inspiring place to work, and also to like have been a part of my undergrad career. But yeah, Day.
Yes, so I also was an American Studies major. I minored in formal organizations, which is basically the closest thing that Trinity has to business. I think for me, like Shana had said, being a part of the community is really what has kept me here. And I think thinking about access is really something that's kept me in this position at this capacity. I am a rural student. I came from a very rural background, and I know, especially with my background in American Studies, different classes that I have taken have really exposed to me kind of underlying vulnerabilities in different fields that are touch points of access that I think more students should have. And so I really wanted to not just see myself go through the door and walk through the door, but really help other people get through the door of coming to Trinity or coming to a small liberal arts college, and really seeing the value of that, especially transitioning from being in a rural place. So that's kind of what's kept me here. To answer the other questions that were in the chat, there was a question about what performing arts looks like at Trinity and what kind of band or orchestral opportunities we have here. So I was by no means a theater arts major. I did take a few theater classes and was a part of a production my first year. I was an actor throughout high school, and so I wanted to kind of keep that component with me as I was on my journey in college. But with performing arts, it takes place in so many different shapes and forms. You can be a student like myself who majored in American Studies, was involved in the performing arts, but didn't necessarily declare theater arts and dance as a major. It can also look like declaring the major and fully diving on into it. Theater arts and dance is something that you can major in here at Trinity. You can double major. And classes here tend to have a lot of different forms. Some students will actually even study away at our La Mama campus, which is in New York City, in Midtown Manhattan. So as a performing arts student, if you really are taking it seriously and want to continue on, maybe see what it's like to be off of Broadway or go on to Broadway, we have, like I said, our La Mama theater production, that specific center, that specific satellite campus, where students will go ahead and join that. Trying to think of other things with performing arts students. Lots of productions. I will say, because we are a liberal arts institution, it doesn't just look like being a part of the arts world or the arts sphere. Students will still have to take classes in the natural science, numeric and symbolic reasoning, like I'd mentioned, math. I took a class in the American Studies department called Post-War American Theater, and it had a lot of theater arts and dance majors. And we looked at different scripts, different plays, but we looked at it through a historical context. And so it was a class that was cross-referenced. So you really do kind of get like an interdisciplinary outlook on theater, or not, yeah, well, performing arts. And then band and orchestral opportunities, there's several of those, not just available at Trinity, but in the greater city of Hartford. We have our Gress Music Center, where we have different recording studios. We have an orchestra, mini orchestra, I should say. It's more of like a quartet that will do different performances throughout the year. And so you have auditions, but we'll strongly encourage you to go peruse through our music department. If you are just someone who is interested in maintaining and keeping up with playing maybe the piano, the guitar, or if you're interested in learning, we offer classes for students to learn how to play an instrument. So if that's something that you're interested in doing or continuing to do, there's that opportunity for you as well. I hope that answers those two questions. But is there any other questions about Trinity in specific, or liberal arts colleges, the college experience?
Just to plug, we also have the Mill, which is a music house on campus. So it's not technically band, orchestral, or performing arts, but let's call it all three, because they have like live music shows. They do, honestly, I think they do a lot of things that are very cool, but I was never super involved in the Mill, but I saw a couple of interesting like performances there. So I think like it's a really nice, like both these things, like a combination of both like curricular opportunities, like academic opportunities, and extracurricular opportunities, academic opportunities, and like things that are just available because we are in like the capital city of Connecticut. So, that's a plus. Yes, do we have another question?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the clubs too. Like, is it easy to create one, or are you involved in some clubs? Because sometimes I know that you have to like have like a minimum of volunteers or minimum of participants to create a club or something like that. So is it hard to create a club in Trinity, and were you part of one?
Yeah, so we have over 140 student clubs and organizations on campus, and the number changes every year because students do make clubs every year. So you do need to have like kind of the thing that you need to do to make a club is to have like people who want to join it. So we do have like I'm not sure about the exact number, but there is like an amount of students you'd have to be interested that you would need in order to like go about the process. But generally, that's not a very hard process. Like people, if you want to make a club about it, you generally, like, there are other people who think it's pretty cool too. So you're able to like have the opportunity. I was a part of a club. I was part of one of our Black student unions for all 4 years of college, and I was president my junior and senior year. And I think what's really nice about clubs on Trinity's campus is that even though like I was only like an e-board member of that one club, like in my 4 years at Trinity, but like you work with so many other like different organizations and other student clubs because it's a very highly collaborative place.
I will say, I think about our cheer club, which recently was created. I want to say it was created pre-COVID, so right before COVID. And essentially, you just have to have the minimum of an e-board. So president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and maybe 2 other members. But the minimum requirement to start is to have an e-board. So to make sure that all of the functions to keep the club running are still there. Yeah, that's the only other thing I would add. And I see another hand raised.
Thank you.
I think it's me. Hi, I'm from Paraguay, and I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it, but do you think that Trinity as a liberal college prefer students who are well-rounded students or students that are outstanding in a particular area or in a particular subject?
I honestly don't think that you can say that it like leans either way. Like I think we look at like all aspects of a student. So I guess we look for well-rounded students because we look at students holistically, not just like one academic part of you. We look at like every part of like makes up who you are, both as like an academic and a person. So we want, I guess like something we look for proof of passions, we look for proof of curiosity. And I think that can take the force of like being very like dedicated to maybe like one field or one realm, or also like, you know, having being a more like well-rounded person or having your hand in a few more different things. I think it also just like depends on like the way, like on a more general level, like the way that you like navigate, like the curiosity that you show, like how you go about your passions.
Absolutely. Love everything that Shayna said. The only other thing I'd add is, you know, just kind of giving language to what Shayna was saying. Sometimes we'll say students are very pointed. So let's say that a student is really interested in music, and that is something that they do. They play several different instruments. They created a orchestra at their school. They're a part of a different band. They are very, very pointed in the music direction. And then you have other students who are well-rounded, who may be a musician and then also play a sport. They may also have a part-time job. They may not have as many hours dedicated to each individual activity, but they have more activities on their plate. So we would just call that student a well-rounded student versus being a very pointed student. But we have the understanding that you are very unique as a person. And so we're never going to compare apples to oranges here. We're always going to look at you in the context of who you are and also, of course, the context of your school.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. I see another question in the chat. It says, what is a quality a student has that makes you consider if they belong at Trinity? So I can start with answering that. I think that there's many qualities that we can look at to see if a student belongs at Trinity. And I feel like any student can truly find their space on campus because we have such a community-based atmosphere. So everybody's going to find some way to fit in. And I think just the nature of the college, that's really what it is. But if you were to go, you know, walk down the Long Walk, which is one of our notable architectural features on campus, and see a student and ask them, what's a common characteristic in a Trinity student? I can tell you that they'll probably say that Trinity students are very highly involved or highly engaged. Lots of Trinity students are active in different things. Like Shayna had mentioned, she was a part of our BSU or Black Student Union. She was also a double major. So she had an interest, you know, in anthropology and American studies. So students like myself, I was a American Studies major. I minored in formal organizations. And for a semester, I had an internship downtown at the Wadsworth Athenaeum, which was an art museum. So highly engaged, highly involved in whatever they're passionate about doing. I had friends who were extremely passionate about community service and volunteering. And so on their weekends, that's where they would spend their time. On Saturday afternoons was doing volunteering, doing community service. I had friends who during weekdays, they would take their time and they would always go support our student athletes. So whether that meant traveling to the nearest football game or basketball game, or if it meant going on the weekends to go see the squash team play in a national tournament. Lots of students are engaged and involved in different ways, shapes, and forms.
Yeah, I think Day mentioned earlier our mission statement here at Trinity, and it's engage, connect, and transform, just like on the most basic level. Like Trinity student, we like want students who that resonates with. Like if you want to engage with like the community around you, like the world around you, connect with different people, like different aspects of life in the world, and then, you know, transform both like yourself and also like your context and like the world around you. Just if you, our message like resonates with you as a person, I think like those are the kind of students that we look for in the end of at Trinity, people who resonate like with our institutional values. And yes, so we have another question in the chat, and it is, I wanted to ask how instrumental is the school to finding internships that lead to jobs? I think it's kind of funny when people ask questions like that. Oh, when I think about me and Day, just because like our work experiences at an undergrad definitely informed our adult careers because we both worked in admissions. I had an internship in admissions, so that definitely helped. But I think on a more basic level, it can be very, very helpful. I know, for example, like one of my peers who graduated with me, he did the Health Fellows program, which offers that kind of like internship experience of like shadowing a research physician. And he is going to medical school, like he's doing work like the National Institute of Health, and like he was able to find those opportunities both through like opportunities at Trinity, but also through his connections that he made with the Trinity alumni to kind of tie it all back in. So I think what's really nice about like our Center for Life Design is that they are focused, again, as like they mentioned, on like the personalization of the experience for students. So I think what's really nice about that, and like the fact that we have like a small school with the resources to individualize experiences, is that you can sit down with like your career coach. That's definitely not their official job title, but I'll say career coach. And you can have that experience and you can tell them, I would like to work in admissions counseling when I graduate from college. And they can like help you get connected with the internships that are available that can help you like make that trajectory a reality. Like I know, so one of my roommates right now, like for example, she is doing an internship through the college in wealth management, which is something I didn't even know existed until I met her. And she is able to like, she's able to find that opportunity through the Center for Student Success and Career Development, and she wants to go into that after college, and she's like getting that experience and like figuring out like, you know, what she likes about it, what she doesn't like about it, and how it's going to inform like her future decisions. Yeah.
Great. Well, just being conscious of time, we are 3 minutes past time, but we just want to say thank you all so much again for joining us tonight for this session. We hope that this was helpful for you getting some deeper insight about what a liberal arts college is, you know, from the beginning of this session, having just a few answers. I hope that you all now have a in-depth understanding about what it is. So if anybody else were to ask you, what is a small liberal arts college or what is a liberal arts college, you'd be able to have something to say in response. But thank you all again and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you guys.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.